welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I think we're matching to some extent, right? You've got the India flag. I'm wearing my India jersey, very proudly donning my India jersey.
Absolutely, you look great. It's a great shirt.
I saw a few of your recent interviews that you've done. I know you've done many of them, and I see you donning the India colors all the time. So I love the spirit.
Thank you very much.
Rakesh, tell me a bit about the genesis or the origin of your love for cricket. We'll get to the Bharatami soon, but I want to know from a personal standpoint, how did you get involved in cricket? Where does your love stem from? Where did it start?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's not a question that gets asked very often, actually. So my love for cricket came from my father. So my father is an East African Indian. He was born in Kenya. And actually, he actually played cricket for Kenya internationally, and he captained in the Kenyan international team. And in the 70s, when he came to England in the UK, he continued playing cricket. He played at a fairly professional level in the UK as well. And when I was born in 1974, he took me to all the matches with him, and so I fell in love with the game because of my father. He always made sure that I was grounded in the right way. He always told me where my heritage was, took me to India every year. So, and made sure that I was brought up as an Indian cricket fan as opposed to an England cricket fan. So, my love for the game came from my father. Unfortunately, I wasn't as good as him. So I didn't continue playing cricket to the level that he did. But I ended up supporting the game instead. So that's where the love of cricket really came from my father.
Absolutely, and your contributions as a supporter of the game, as a supporter of Team India, have been absolutely staggering. Tell me something, Rakesh. I believe, and I might be wrong here because this was before my birth. I believe East Africa played in the World Cup as well. This was in the first World Cup and the second World Cup as well, right? And I think India's only win before the 1983 World Cup was against East Africa, I believe, right?
Correct, in England. That's right. They did play a long time ago. I think in those days, a lot of the East African team, or at the time, was full of Indians who had gone to East Africa, right? Who travel out there from years and years ago, right? So yeah, and actually, if you notice the last few teams from Kenya and Namibia, they've always had that kind of Asian influence as well, right? So that still carries on, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Now we'll talk about the Bharatami. I'm slightly disappointed, I must say, because I don't see the Bharatami flag in the backdrop. You typically do have it. I'm not sure if you changed your seating location. I'm guessing you have.
Yes, unfortunately, I have moved somewhere else, right? Because my children are upstairs working, so I had to move to a new location in the house. Yeah.
I see. Lovely. Not a problem at all. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about the Bharatami, so the flag need not be there right now. So the Bharatami, right? I was looking at your Instagram, and you guys define yourself as the official Team India supporters group, right? Which is the very gentlemanly, politically correct definition. I came across this one definition, or this one description, I should say, in the Seattle Times. I'm not sure how I came across this article in the Seattle Times, but it goes to show that the Bharatami has actually reached every nook and corner of the world. And the Seattle Times described the Bharatami as the noisiest, most passionate, drum-banging, trumpet-blasting cricket fans. Is that an apt definition? At least an Urban Dictionary apt definition?
Well, I think Seattle Times have done a very good job describing who the Bharatami are, I would say. Listen, I think when I set up the Bharatami, there was one clear objective, and that was to make sure that we provide an experience that can't be rivaled in a cricket stadium, right? And people can come and watch an Indian cricket match and they get to feel that Bharatami experience in the way that Seattle Times have described it. Then I think we've reached our objective, absolutely, right? So it's about creating amazing experiences. It's about making sure that as an Indian cricket fan, if you enjoyed that, then you want to be part of that, and hopefully we can take as many fans around the world as possible, right, with us everywhere we go.
Absolutely. And Rakesh, you spoke about the atmosphere that you guys create, right? A lot of people haven't quite been to games and sat with the Bharatami, especially someone like me, right? I'm watching from India and I'm seeing all the shenanigans that's going on in the stands when you guys are in England, Australia, all over the world, right? Tell me what the atmosphere is like. I'm pretty sure it's hard to describe. You have to experience it to actually realize what it's like. But use words to best describe what the atmosphere is like when you guys are in the stands creating all the shenanigans and supporting Team India.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's organized noise. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I mean, if you think about in India, when I watch cricket in India, 40,000 people going absolutely crazy, right? And it's just a lot of noise, right? Whereas what we try to do is put some organization to it. And what I mean by organization is the doors come in. And to give you an idea, for the last World Cup that just happened, we had 6 role players that were strategically positioned in 3 different areas of the stadium, right? So there were 2, 2, 2, right? And what I mean by organized is that so much organization goes into what the Bharatami does. We also have a saxophone player that was traveling around, and he would play with the door players, and they were practicing even before the matches of the kind of songs that would play that would be in sync together, right? We also have our flag situated in certain parts of the stadium. We also have people who sing our songs, and these people go around the stadiums and they sing the songs as well. So when I talk about organized noise, that's what I mean, right? It's a lot of deep-rooted organization that goes into creating the Bharatami experience. And that's quite important that people don't really realize, because, we have to engage with the ICC, we have to engage with the board, the Cricket Australia or the ECB or the BCCI. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, right? Because, as you can imagine, to get 6 role players into the stadium, for security reasons, etc., that all needs to be arranged, So there's a lot of work that goes in that people perhaps don't think about when it comes to what we do in the stadium as Bharatami.
And you spoke about the singing and the songs. We'll get to that in a bit. I'll tell you my favorite Bharatami song, and I'll probably ask you to name yours as well. But before that, look, I was actually pleasantly surprised that the Bharatami has been in existence for over 20 years. I believe it's 21 years now, slightly north of 21 years. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile as part of my very extensive due diligence before I interview anyone. And you founded the Bharatami in 1999, right? I think it was a group of you and a few friends who went to the India-Pakistan match during the 1999 World Cup. And that's when it struck you, there's so many Pakistani fans. It's like a sea of green. Why not have a sea of blue? And since then, I think the tide has sort of changed, right? So walk me through the evolution of the Bharatami ever since it started during its inception in 1999 to what it is right now, which is like a sea of blue, regardless of where you are in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it has been a complete evolution, right? And if you think about that particular match in 1999, in those days, Manchester was heavily populated with Pakistanis, right? And so when India turned up there, it was at least 75% all Pakistanis in the stadium. And me and 3 friends of mine, when we walked into the stadium, we were just, surrounded by Pakistani fans everywhere. And where Bharatami was really originated was, at that moment, we thought we cannot survive the whole match being surrounded by Pakistani fans. So we called up all our other friends around the stadium and said, look, why don't we all come together and cheer for Team India as a collective? As the match progressed, that group got bigger and bigger and bigger. And obviously we had to shout louder because we were surrounded by Pakistani fans. And obviously India won that match. But what came out of that was a tremendous atmosphere and experience that just made me think that, as cricket fans, we are the most passionate fans in the world. We need something more organized. We need our own version of the Barmy Army. And being born and brought up in England, I saw what the Barmy Army did. I thought, let's just make our own version of that. So that's how it really started. And in the early years, it was quite tough, right? Because as you can imagine, in the early 2000s, Indian team wasn't doing that great. We had the 2003 World Cup, which was our first major tour. We took 450 people to South Africa. We gained some momentum there. Then there was a bit of a lull until 2007 when we won the T20 World Cup. But it was only until 2011 when we won the World Cup. And actually, at that time, I was living in India. I was in Mumbai for 4 years. So the momentum really grew then. And then it was in 2015 when we realized, actually, the following now that we have, more and more people wanted to be part of the Bharatami experience. And we weren't a proper organized travel organization. So we brought in a travel division of Bharatami. Then we contacted the ICC. We said, can we become a partner of yours? And sell official tickets, official packages. And ever since then, it's just spiraled and it's got bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, we have 20 people working for us in India, in the UK, and in Australia. And we travel all over the world, basically, following the cricket team, whether it's for ICC tournaments or for bilateral series.
Absolutely fantastic. Like it's there for everyone to see the way all your efforts over the last 20 odd years have manifested. And I'm pretty sure you guys will grow from strength to strength from here on as well. But how does it work? I know you spoke about the fact that you guys travel for nearly every series, right? I know you travel for every major series, regardless of where it's taking place in the world. But even say the quote unquote trivial series, are those series ones you travel for? Do you have a contingent traveling to every part of the world, regardless of what the magnitude of the series is?
Yeah, I mean, take for example the New Zealand series. That happened coincidentally at the same time as the Women's T20 World Cup, if you remember. And the challenge we had there was that we committed to the BCCI that we will support our women's team, but at the same time, the New Zealand series was happening with the men's team. So we had our local members who were based in New Zealand. A few of those attended the test matches in New Zealand, whereas our big contingent actually supported the Women's World Cup. And if you saw, our presence was huge. And in the final, we sold 2 big blocks of just Bharatami members, supporting our women, right? So we try and be everywhere where possible. And more recently, we wanted to commit to the women's game as well. So we've been supporting the women's game. And actually, I have a call next week with the local organising committee in New Zealand for the Women's World Cup in New Zealand next year as well. So we try and be everywhere where we possibly can. Obviously, some series will get more attendance than others. But now, because Bharat is grown in all the major countries where India play cricket, we will always have some sort of presence at every series, basically. Yeah.
Solid. So you mentioned that a majority of you actually went to Australia to cover the World Cup, to watch the women's team play in the World Cup, and there was a very small contingent that went to New Zealand to watch the men's team take on New Zealand. So that explains why the women's team did so well. India's performance against New Zealand down under was actually so underwhelming.
Well, they call us a 12th man, right? So maybe they need a 12th man in New Zealand, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And speaking of the 12th man, that reminds me of this one flag that I saw. I'm not sure where I came across this, probably on Instagram or perhaps on your Facebook page. I know you guys have a massive social media presence. There was this massive flag. I couldn't quite tell which stadium this was, right? The flag must have been like the length of probably a football field, half the length of a football field, and you had the Bharatami, you had the Indian tricolor, and then you had the 12th man written there. If I remember correctly, which stadium was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I'm guessing basically before the World Cup started, a few of us travelled to India for the India-Australia series. We were playing Ranchi, Mohali, Delhi, the last 3 matches basically, and the last match was at the then Ferozakotla Stadium, where we unveiled a banner which said, "Good luck to India from your 12th man, the Bharatami." So we're wishing them good luck for the World Cup. So that was unveiled at the last match of the Australia series, basically. Yeah, we also unveiled it at the World Cup as well. Yeah, it was a 60-foot flag, basically. Yeah.
Were you present at the Kotla for that game against Australia?
Yes.
You were. Yeah. That's the game India lost, right? It was the last game of the series. India ended up losing the series. I see. So I was at the Kotla as well for that game. So I think that's the closest we've actually come in contact with each other.
Yes.
Kotla as well.
Okay.
I was
the
there.
Story behind that series was that on our WhatsApp forums, a few of us actually thought that this would be Dhoni's last series at home in India, and with him playing in Ranchi, there was a few of us that thought, you know what, if this is going to be Dhoni's last match, we don't want to miss it. So a whole group of us travelled out for the last 3 matches of that series, which was Ranchi, Mohali, and Delhi, basically. And look, it could well be that we saw, Dhoni's last match in India. We don't know yet, right? So at least we could say we were there when he played his last match in India.
Exactly. It was heartbreaking to watch the game. Of course, India lost the series. But the second reason, from a personal standpoint, as to why the game was heartbreaking was because I was there watching that game with the girl I was dating at that point in time.
Right.
And for some reason, we broke up a few days after that game. I still don't know exactly why. But I guess her initials were also VK. And I am a massive Virat Kohli fan. And I guess she understood which VK I preferred more, where my loyalties lied.
Brilliant.
Anyway, sorry, I digress. Talking about the singing and the dancing and the shenanigans and the chanting, right? So I came across this one chant. Of course, you guys have plenty of them. A lot of them inspired from by football, right? I remember coming across this one chant. This was during the 2017 Champions Trophy that took place when Dhoni was still at the helm. So it's not relevant now, but I still love it. I still keep singing it in my head. So it goes something like this, right? You guys spoke about the organized noise. Me singing is anything but organized. This is disorganized noise, but hoping you can bear with me. So it goes, "We love Kohli, Virat Kohli. I just don't think you understand. He's MS Dhoni's man. He smashes Pakistan. We love Virat Kohli." How was that?
Brilliant. You should join us in the stands. You got the voice for it for sure. Yeah.
I would love to. I would love to. Whenever I go out to the Eden Gardens, I absolutely enjoy myself to the max. Honestly, nothing gives me as good an in-game experience as watching a game at the Eden Gardens. But back in the day, before they had bucket seats, when there were benches, when there were 100,000 people crammed into the stadium. Now, of course, it's a bit more. I guess you have to be well behaved because the police are out there. But still, I mean, nothing can beat the experience of being at the stadium, especially at a place like the Eden Gardens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that song actually we sang to Virat Kohli himself after the India versus Pakistan match in the 2016 T20 World Cup. So there was a group of around 350, 400 of us that traveled from different parts of the world. And when the match was finished, we stayed behind. And Virat was being interviewed on TV. And then we sang the song directly to him, and he gave us a thumbs up and waved at us, basically. So that was the first time. And if you see on our social media, you see us actually in the garden singing that song. I think we were singing it to Virat at that point.
Superb. Now going from disorganized noise to organized noise, I'm going to put you on the spot now. We have a question from one of our viewers, Vipul Sachdeva, who says, do you have any favorite chant? And I'll add a second part to the question. If so, could you please sing it for us?
I have a favorite chant, yes. So my favorite chant actually is the Virat Kohli one, because it's the one I made up myself, right? So you've actually already sang it, so you've done me a favor. So that is my favorite chant. Maybe because it's a chant that I started and made up from a football song I know from Tottenham, Daily Alley song, basically. Yeah. So you're not going to get me to sing.
I'll leave you there. Speaking of football, rumor has it that you're a big Manchester United fan. Is that right?
I'm a huge Manchester United fan. Absolutely, yes.
Trafford and ticket holder.
I've been a season ticket holder for over 25 years there. In the Stretford End, Tier 2, 3103, which is all the hardcore Manchester United fans basically watch the game. Yeah.
So I can count three things that we have in common. Number one, we're massive Indian cricket fans. Number two, both of us are massive Manchester United fans. And number three, both of us are supremely dashing and handsome and good looking and charming.
Well, 2 out of 3. I don't know about 3 out of 3.
Anyway, another question from one of our viewers. This is Venkat, who's asking us, do you have a count of matches that you have seen in the stadium?
I don't actually have an actual number, but I have got a match ticket for every single match that I've ever attended. So I should probably add them all up, and I'll probably be able to work out how many I've been to. But I actually collect, from a memorabilia perspective, I actually collect all the match tickets. And my first ever match was in 1990 when India toured England, and it was one of Sachin's first away tours after Pakistan, if you remember correctly. My first ever match was the Texaco Trophy when Sachin played at Trent Bridge in 1990, and I still have the match ticket which Sachin signed for me as well. And luckily enough, I saw his last match at Mumbai as well, at the Wankhede, when he played his last match. So I've got one of his first matches and obviously his last match as well. So if I add them up, I'll probably get an idea. It's something I should probably do.
Absolutely staggering. And speaking of one of Sachin's first matches and one of his last ones, I'm not sure if you can see the screen, but we have this image that we actually got from your Twitter account. We have both the tickets on top of each other. This is the India-West Indies game, which was, of course, Sachin's last game that took place at the Wankhede. And then the game that you were talking about in 1990 when Sachin was up against England.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was the program that we got as well from the Wankhede as well, yeah.
And you collect all of those, right? All the memorabilia, all the programs, all the tickets, everything.
Yeah. I've got all of the India versus Pakistan match tickets for all the World Cups as well. I'm actually missing one. I'll be honest with you. I'm missing the 1992. So if any of your listeners know where I can find it, I'm looking for the 1992 World Cup match ticket in Pakistan, but I have all that. Yeah.
Fascinating. And it might be hard for you to actually answer this question, given the fact that you can't count the number of matches that you've actually been to. But amongst all the stadiums that you've been to, this comes from a viewer, Vipul again. He says, what has been your best and worst ever stadium experience? We can start with the best one. The best one here being the most rambunctious, the best atmosphere, the one that's giving you the the biggest high, the biggest kick, and then we can talk about the most dull experience as well, if there has been a dull experience.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to answer this in two different ways, right? Because I think it's difficult for me to answer this being an Indian, and not answer it in two ways. So I would say that within India, the best experience I've had, I don't think you can ever be Wankhede 2011 World Cup final. There was one moment that only the people that were in the stadium can really describe the atmosphere, which is when Vande Mataram was being played in the second innings, which, still now when I watch it on TV or I think about it, you get goosebumps, right? So that was probably, the best atmosphere I've ever experienced, watching, your country, win a World Cup at home at the Wankhede under that kind of atmosphere and that journey they took us on. That was phenomenal, right? So with India, I would say Wankhede. Outside of India, I just think purely because of the scene, right? I don't think you can beat Cape Town. Cape Town, if you're a cricket fan and you manage to get to South Africa, you've got to go and watch a cricket match in Cape Town. Just the scenery that you get, the backdrop you get, and the atmosphere during a test match or a one-day international is something which is very difficult to experience anywhere else in the world. So outside of India, I say Cape Town. Inside of India, I say Wankhede. I'd say in terms of worst experience, if I was to go inside and outside, I thought bearing in mind Delhi is the capital of India, and the nostalgia of being in the capital of India, I think Delhi is a bit of an upgrade, if I'm brutally honest. I've watched quite a few matches there in different parts of the stadium, and I think they need to do a lot of work there in that stadium, right? Because they've got some of the most passionate fans in India, right? So I think Delhi isn't a great experience for Indian cricket fans, and they can do a lot better. I would say outside of India, that's a difficult one. The stadiums outside of India are generally pretty good, I would say. I think there's some small grounds which don't really help you. Trent Bridge, I'm not a big fan, mainly because they don't let us take our drums in there. So if ever you see Bharatami at Trent Bridge and you're not hearing us, it's because they don't let us take our drums in there. So I'd say Trent Bridge.
Understood. Aishwarya Jayaraman is asking you, do you remember your first ever match experience? If you could extensively walk us through your first ever match experience.
Yes, the first one, like I said to you, was Trent Bridge. And if you go onto YouTube and you Google and you were to find India playing England in 1990 at Trent Bridge, we talk about, now you go to an India match anywhere in the world and it's a sea of blue. Well, back in 1990, if you watch that match, it was probably about 80% Indian cricket fans in that stadium. Even back then, back in 1990, we're talking nearly 30 years ago, right? And the stadium was absolutely packed. And they were packed because of one person. It was packed because of Sachin. Everybody had heard about this, wonder kid and what he had done in Pakistan and blown up on the world stage. And everyone turned up to watch him. And that experience, he came in and he scored a very quick fire 30-odd, which helped India not win the match, but also win the series 2-0 against England. And it was just a phenomenal experience. The atmosphere when he came out to bat, I think he cracked about 4 fours, and every 4 was just, greeted with this tremendous amount of noise. So for me personally, I would say, that initial experience that I had was probably my best experience and probably one of the reasons why I do what I do right now, I'd say.
Fantastic. And speaking of the atmosphere, a couple of comments that I have to make based on my observances, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the two things that I feel really stand out about the Bharatami, number one is that you don't just sing when you're winning, you're singing when you're winning, you might be losing, you might be drawing a game, right? You're always singing. Number two, I feel that even if you're outnumbered, it rarely happens, but in the unlikely event that you're actually outnumbered by fans of the opposition, you still out-sing them, although they might be a majority compared to you. How does that happen? Where do you guys get the energy from? Like, what is it? Is it just the passion for the game, the love of cricket, the love of India?
Yeah, I think, look, I think in answer to your first question, our motto is that we support our team, win, lose or draw, right? And years gone by, certainly the years when Bharatami first started, you would hear stories of when India lost, particularly the World Cup. Players' houses were stoned and, their effigies used to be burnt. And, one of the things that we don't subscribe to is that type of behavior from a fan. if you call yourself an Indian cricket fan, then you should support your team whether they win or lose, because it's a sport and winning and losing is part of the game, right? So we always subscribe and educate to our members, our followers, that look, support the team, when they win and they lose, right? It happens. And so if you notice through our social media, we hardly ever put any negative comments or any negative posts, because, I think, if we're going to call ourselves the top fan in the Indian cricket team, then we have to support them, whether they win or lose, right? And then going back to your second point around being sort of outnumbered in the stadium, well, I think actually we thrive when we are outnumbered, right? Because for us, it's the impetus to actually be louder and beat our opposition in the stands. So, most recently in 2018, when we were in Edgbaston for the first test against England, we were massively outnumbered by the Barmy Army. But, there was about 1,000 of us, one section, and nearly every one of us walked out of there without our voices because we didn't stop singing for 5 days, right? So, and that's what it's all about. And, I think that's when you truly get to feel what the Bharat experience is all about, when you're part of that type of atmosphere.
Absolutely. It reminds me of away fans in football as well. You have this small contingent of about 5,000 away fans, the hardcore fans who travel for every game home and away. And compared to, say, the 35, 40, 50,000 home fans that are sitting right next to them, the away fans outsing all the home fans, which is absolutely incredible. And when I'm watching on the television, I can hear the away fans loudly, clearly, coherently, and it gives me goosebumps when I hear some of the Man United chants, that are being sung by the away contingent that travels fanatically for every single game.
Absolutely, and that, a lot of that culture that we brought to cricket has stemmed from that football culture, right? So we brought a lot of that into Indian cricket, and like I said to you, it's much more organized noise as opposed to sometimes what we see everywhere else in the world.
Absolutely. And speaking of football culture versus cricket culture, comparing both, I think that's a beautiful segue to this next question that is coming from Vipul Sachdeva. Vipul, mate, you're on a roll. Keep those questions coming. And Vipul says, how's the experience at a football stadium like Old Trafford related to major cricket stadiums? Because I know you mentioned that you guys carry your dhols and your trumpets. I'm guessing you're probably not allowed to do so at Old Trafford, right? So could you compare both atmospheres, given the fact that, you've been a season ticket holder for so long at Old Trafford, and you've been to nearly every single cricket game since the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, it's a good question, right? So I think when you go to a football match, that if there's 70,000 fans in the stadium, probably at least 50,000 to 60,000, they would know the songs that everybody sings. So, you will hear everybody sing those songs, right? So you get much more organized singing happening in the stadiums throughout the match, right? Whereas in cricket, because this country is still growing and developing, right? What we get is a section of the Bharatami that know the words, but obviously there's a big percentage that are not part of the Bharatami yet who don't know the words, right? So you don't get that collective voice, if that makes sense, yet. But no, that's something we're working towards. That's something we're trying to address. More recently, we've been posting on our social media what we call the Bharatami Songbook, where we post videos of us singing the song and we actually include the words. So if any of you want to learn our songs, want to learn the words, you'll go to our social media handles and you'll be able to find them through the various posts that we're making. But I think that's the major difference. In football, you get everybody knowing the words, whereas in cricket, only a few people do.
And I guess, Rakesh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess that could be stemming from there being a fundamental difference between football and cricket as sports as well, right? Football being a more fluid game, right? It's more continuous, as well as versus cricket, that's a bit staggered. You have one ball that's bowled, okay, then play stops for a few seconds, then the bowler takes his run up, then bowls again. It's hard to be actually singing continuously versus in a setting like a football game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, the Barmy Army would disagree with that. I mean, when you see them away supporting England, they're singing non-stop, right? They don't stop singing when they're on away tours, right? And that's regardless of his, breaking play or not, So I think they would argue against that. But I get your point, that could be one of the reasons why. And I think, for us, it's about changing the culture. Recently, I had a meeting with some of the guys in the BCCI, and it was around how we could enhance the fan experience. How do we create an environment where more people, want to be part of this Bharatami experience? And I massively believe that Test cricket, as an example, when you watch Test cricket in India, you still get stadiums which are a third full or half full. And Virat Kohli made the point himself that we want to be playing in stadiums where they're full, right? We want to play in the major metros and the major cities in India. But you can enhance that, right, by creating a different type of experience. And one of our objectives as Bharatami is to enhance that fan experience, to bring a different type of culture into the cricket stadium. So people come because they really enjoy the experience, and they come because there's a different objective that they've got apart from just watching cricket. They want to have fun as well, right? So hopefully we can enhance that. Hopefully we can encourage more India cricket fans to come to watch Test match cricket and be part of our experience as well.
And how do you intend on actually encouraging more people to actually watch Test match cricket? Of course, the pink ball test that we saw recently was a very, very promising sign. We saw a packed Eden Gardens for nearly all days of cricket. But how do we actually make sure that that is what the status quo looks like in the future as well, and that wasn't just a one-off? Because Virat Kohli also talks about how test match cricket is the form of cricket that gives him the most job satisfaction. That's the phrase that he uses. And so Test match cricket is definitely here to stay, and 5-day Test match cricket here to stay. But how do we actually encourage more fans to show up during these Test matches? What's the
so if you think about the introduction of the IPL, what the IPL did to Indian cricket was to create an experience which encouraged a wide demographic of Indian cricket fans to attend the games. Now, you get families coming to IPL, right? You got boys and girls coming to watch the IPL. And that was because of what the IPL brought in terms of an experience for those demographics of fans. And there are a demographic of fans that I believe would come and watch Test match cricket if they got a different experience, right? So could we have sections of each stadium where India play Test match cricket, which is dedicated for the Bharatami, where we have our doors, where we have our trumpet players, where we have 3,000 fans singing, right? Where we have Virat Kohli showing his fist pump, to those group of Bharatami members, right? Can we encourage that? Because once you create that kind of experience, it will get more people wanting to be part of that. And all of a sudden, from 3,000, it'll be 5,000, then it'll be 10,000. And all of a sudden, you've got a different type of experience, right? So why we started talking to the BCCI is to try and understand what could be possible, right? What can we do where? How can we start this off? And can Bharatami really, influence the change in Indian cricket fans' perception of why they should come to Test match cricket? Because at the moment, there are challenges, right? One of the challenges is that, generally, because Test match cricket is played in the day, the heat factor is one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to kind of remove those objections as much as possible and try and influence it with some positives, which would make people want to come and watch Test match cricket. For me, I'm like Virat Kohli. Test match cricket is my priority as well. It's the form of the game I love the most. It's the form of the game I follow the most. But we need to change people's mindsets as to why they should come and watch Test match cricket, and I think it's all experience led.
Absolutely. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a gradual shift, but more power to you guys and your efforts. I know there was a slightly serious discussion, so let's provide some comic relief. Let's turn to a feisty question that's coming from Nandini Garg, and she says, have you ever fought with the rival team's fan group?
I wouldn't say fought physically. I would say
come on, you
through
can
our voices, through our singing.
Be honest here.
So listen. I mean, we go back to 1999, and if you remember, 1999 was during the Kargil War, right? So a lot of people don't know that the tension in the stadium was at its highest, right? So back in the day, and you can Google this yourself, you'll see that actually there was a lot of trouble outside, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to come as a collective, right? So the whole notion of where Bharatami came from was a group of Indians coming together and supporting, the team together. But that was back in the day, right? Those things don't happen now. When we lost to Pakistan in 2017 in the Champions Trophy, we went over to the Pakistani fans and we congratulated them for the win. Let them know that this was a one-off. But yeah, it's all good banter now, so it's all good now.
Lovely. Sanjeev Nair is asking us a very pertinent question, given the testing times that we're facing. He says, what's your opinion of games to be played behind closed doors?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost for me, like everybody has said, safety is the most important thing for players and fans. So that's the priority. Secondly, all of us cricket fans just want cricket back, right? So if you were to give me a priority, I'd say safety, let's get cricket back, even if it's no fans in the stadium. And then let's progressively move towards fans back in the stadium. So that would be my chain of thought, basically. We all want cricket back as quick as possible. That should be the priority. safety first, and then let's get ourselves back in the stands again. You know?
Absolutely. And even if cricket is to resume behind closed doors and you guys can't make it to the stadium, I'm pretty sure wherever you guys may be, you guys will be vocal enough that the reverberations from wherever you guys are do reach the cricketers and pump them up.
Absolutely, yeah. There'll be a lot of chatter happening on our forums for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And those good wishes will reach the stadium and the cricketers. Speaking of some of the cricketers, I'm pretty sure you guys have had lots of events behind closed doors after games, during test matches, before test matches. You guys have had lots of one-on-one interactions with cricketers, getting up close in person with like Virat Kohli, MS Dhoni, KL Rahul. Of course, you guys were part of the celebrations that took place after India won the Test series in Australia in 2018, 2019 down under. What is it like hanging out with these guys? Because of course we see a different persona that we're watching on TV, but you get up close and personal with them. I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers must be wondering what it's like being up close and personal with them. What are these guys like when the cameras are not on them?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that as a supporters group, because we tend to stay in the same hotels with them at times, and we travel where they travel, we try to give them as much space as possible. So we're not in their faces asking for selfies. I mean, if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see that there isn't one single photo of one Indian cricket player. I don't ask for the players for any selfies because they have 100,000 other people asking the same question. So we try and give them their space. That's the first thing I would say. And ultimately, when we're on tour with the Indian cricket team, they're just like other human beings. They like to go out for walks. When we're in Australia, they get a bit more freedom, and you constantly see them in coffee shops or going for walks wherever they might be on the beachfront or wherever it might be, right? And they're quite chill, they're quite relaxed, and in that type of environment, they do have time for you as a fan, right? Because they haven't, got the sensation around them everywhere they go in India. So when they're in England or in New Zealand or Australia or South Africa, they actually are a lot more open because they're not going to get bombarded upon, which is great, right? So if any of you want to get close to the Indian cricket team, come on an away tour with us, right? You'll probably get a better opportunity.
To your point, I remember Virat Kohli once using the phrase royal jail, describing what it feels like when he's actually playing in India as opposed to playing abroad. It feels like a royal jail when he's in India.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't think you can really appreciate it unless you're a cricketer yourself, right? Because you can see it happen, but until you've actually experienced it yourself, I don't think you really get an appreciation. And sometimes, people might feel that the players are arrogant or they don't have time for you, but it's nothing like that, right? At the end of the day, when you have so many people asking you the same question every single time, it's very difficult to make time for every single person. But every single player, they do feel the love, and they would like to give that love back, but they have to do it within limit, right? And I think that's something that we as fans have to understand as well.
Absolutely. You sent out an open invite asking people to join you on the next away tour. But fans must be wondering, how is it that I joined the Bharatami? And that's Sanjeev Nair, echoing the sentiments of multiple viewers. So tell us, Rakesh, how can people join the Bharatami?
Yeah, look, joining the Bharatami is very, very simple. You can go onto our website, bharatami.com, click on the registration button, fill in the details, and automatically you become a registered member. From then on, you will receive regular newsletters, regular information about any tours, any tickets that we are getting access to, whether it's at home in India or outside of India, and you'll get all of our updates basically. Registration is free of charge, remember that, right? We don't charge for registration, so just sign up, become a member, and be part of our family.
Fantastic, Rakesh. As soon as this conversation is done, the first thing that I'm doing is following the steps that you just comprehensively described. And hopefully, sooner rather than later, I'm actually sitting with you in the stands, both of us with a nice cold glass of beer in our hands, singing our favorite Virat Kohli song and cheering for Team India.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Fantastic. Likewise, the dreams are made of. Rakesh, that was it. Honestly, I can't believe that we actually spoken for about 40 odd minutes. That's how fluid and free flowing the conversation was. Thoroughly enjoyed you fielding all of my questions, all of the viewers' questions. For viewers who are watching currently, please be sure to follow the Bharatami on their various social media platforms. Rakesh, where can people find you guys?
All over social media. So Instagram, at the Bharatami, Twitter, at the Bharatami, Facebook. We just started our podcast as well, so we're in our 7th episode. So if you're not following us on Spotify, follow our podcast. If you want to be part of our podcast, you can be as well. I would encourage fans from all over the world to be part of them as well. But yeah, we're all over social media, so come and follow us.
Fantastic. And once you're done following Bharatami on all the different social media platforms that Rakesh spoke about, make sure you follow One Play Sports as well, such that you can actually keep up to date with conversations such as these that take place on a daily basis. Rakesh, mate, thank you so much again for joining us and speaking candidly on this second episode of Chatar Patar with Anubhav. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you did as well, and hope to have many more conversations in the future with not just you, but other members of the Bharatami as well.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time and stay safe, everyone. Catch you in the stand soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Stay safe, mate.
Take care.
Take care. Cheers.